Roundtable Sports Network brings you NFL divisional debate coverage on a weekly basis from your favorite content creators across YouTube, featuring the AFC East Roundtable live Monday and Wednesday evenings, the AFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC South Roundtable live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. EST, the NFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST, the AFC West Roundtable live Tuesdays at 9 p.m. EST, the NFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST, the AFC North Roundtable live Wednesdays at 6 p.m. EST, the NFC East Roundtable live Thursdays at 6 p.m. EST. Roundtable Sports, real coverage from real fans.
NFC South Roundtable, how are we feeling? It is the usual suspects back at it again with another live stream. We are here to break down everything that happened in Week 9. We got some big news really from a couple of these teams. I mean, you got the Saints making moves with their head coaches. You got the Panthers making moves with their personnel with the trade deadline ending today. There is a lot that we need to get into. Obviously, today is the presidential election. All of that stuff is happening throughout the world in America right now. So if you guys are rocking with us right now, we absolutely appreciate it. Give a thumbs up to you guys because you are rocking with the NFC South Roundtable, and we appreciate that so much. Today's video brought to you by BetUS. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later how you can get an exclusive deal from them. But as always, I'm your host, Colby Cochran, here with Roundtable Sports. Without further ado, let's start bringing these guys in. And let's start here with my boy, Smitty. Smitty, what's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Hey, what's up, Kobe? What's good, man?
You know what? It's just one of those days, man. It's one of those days. I feel like the weather's changing. It's getting a little bit gloomy. You're trying to deal with the change of times. So, yeah, it's just one of those days, Smitty. It's one of those days.
I don't want to mess with the time too bad, man, because I'm having the time of my life, man. Falcons are 6-3, number 3 in the NFC conference, and we rolling right now going into New Orleans, so I'm ready for week 10.
Yeah, brother. In the playoffs, too, you guys are shaping up. I mean, we're playing November football. We're playing November football now, and this is when it starts to matter the most, is what I've been saying, and I will continue to say it. So how your team starts to perform, how your players are going to perform right now, this is where it becomes vital for your postseason run. But let's go ahead and let's bring on James. Buddy, I mean, you were this close to pulling it off. I don't think any of us expected it to be that close. So although you did lose, maybe you feel okay about losing because it was close?
No.
Okay.
No. Losing sucks.
Okay.
Man, bro, they've lost 4 out of their last 5. And like, we'll dive more into it, but I am pretty tired of like, oh man, they were competitive. But it doesn't win football games. But I am happy to be here. Happy to see you guys, as always, on a beautiful Tuesday. So can't wait to dive into yet another show. It'll be a lot of fun, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you guys, as always.
Yeah, man, look, no such thing at the end of the day as a moral win, right? You either win a game or you lose a game, and that's all that matters at the end of the day when it comes to football and it comes to a potential postseason run. And as a Patriots fan, man, over the last few years, I don't know what's worse, because you go into a game where you're expecting to get, killed. You're expecting to lose. So when you lose, you're okay because you're like, I was expecting it. But I feel like it's even worse when your team is in the game. They have that chance to win, but they shoot themselves in the foot and you still end up losing. And you're like, well, I knew we were going to, but then you gave me false hope and now I'm upset again. So those really do be the worst type of losses, man. So I'm feeling for you, James.
Oh, yeah.
But let's go ahead and bring on a man that, although lost, is probably sky freaking high right now, like he won the damn Super Bowl. Let's give it up for my boy TJ.
Yes,
What's
sir.
going on, brother?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Happy days are here again. What's going on, fellas? What's going on, fellas? To be a loser, I feel like a winner. Man, it feels good, man.
Where did you get that shirt?
Hey,
right?
man. Hey, shouts out to Who That Nation 504, man, who gifted me this shirt. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to be wearing this shirt and Dennis Allen would no longer be the coach, but I was going to rock it because, like I said, I'm just so freaking excited right now, man. I mean, this is like man, for the exception of marrying my beautiful wife and my son, this is one of the happiest moments of my life right here.
You said the right thing there, TJ. Just in case your wife or your kids are watching, make sure they know.
Hey, God, family, football. You know what I'm saying?
Happy wife, happy life.
Yep.
Hey, man, but look, like, do you think, TJ, that if they won this game, because it looked like you guys were going to win this game at first, obviously towards the end there, you lost it, you end up losing the game, but do you think that if you guys did come out with the win, Dennis Allen would still be here right now?
Absolutely. He would have been here. He would have been here. That's why Clay, Panther Nation, y'all keep on pounding, man. Bryce Young is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. I don't care what he do for the rest of his career. This man is a legend in my books. He's a legend. I don't care. There's not nobody. There will be no Bryce Young slander going forward. I don't care how bad he played. This man went out there and did God's work. He had to do it, man. And they had to lose that game, man. They had to lose it because we wouldn't be at this point if they didn't lose this game, man. So, Bryce Young, you're a legend, my friend. You're a legend.
And I believe it was you, TJ, who said last week that you wanted them to lose this game because if they lost this game, you felt confident that would be the staple in the coffin for Dennis Allen. And you predicted it. You put it out there. That's exactly what happened.
Absolutely right.
Had no leg to stand on after this. You talked about Derek Carr being injured. You talked about the plethora of injuries. You had your guy Pete Warner came back to add to the defense. Yeah, they didn't have a leg to stand on. But, of course, like we'll get into it later, Mickey Loomis wasn't happy about it. It actually came from a higher up, came from the owner to get this man up out of here. And Gail Benson, her legend is starting to grow because a lot of people were very concerned about her position and how, how she was perceived. So for this to happen, I mean, this was major.
Wow. You know what, TJ, props to you because, man, let me tell you, I have not seen Saints fans in the chat this hype representing. Y'all are feeling strong. And you know what? It might be a loss, but in a lot of ways,
man, we won.
This was actually a win for you guys.
We won.
This was a win. But let's go ahead and let's bring on the guy who technically did win this game. Clay, buddy, how are you feeling?
I mean, I could honestly, the Saints lost to themselves. Let's be honest. Like, I mean, we didn't win that game. You go look at the type of possession, the yards, the total yards. I mean, they had 410 yards of total offense. We only had 286. Like, my God. But I mean, I know TJ's happy. Bryce Young did his thing. He actually, I give Bryce Young his flowers in this game. He actually played a decent game. Didn't look shaky. Made some nice throws. We had a couple drops, but we'll dive more into that. But it is what it is. But I mean, I'm happy for TJ because TJ's happy that we got Dennis Allen out of there. But it seems like Bryce Young might be the coach reaper at this point because I think this is the third coach that's gotten fired because of Bryce Young, if I'm not mistaken, or second, something like that.
Interesting. Well, Clay, I have a question for you because, we know how TJ feels about losing because he technically won too in a lot of ways. But for you as a Panthers fan, where are you currently standing with your mentality as a Panthers fan? Because this obviously drops you with where you're projected to pick in the 2025 draft. Patriots regained number 1. Y'all were, I think, 1 heading into this week. So how do you feel? I mean, is this, yes, I want my team to win. I want my team to get momentum. Or is it, no, I want you to be bad and get the number 1 overall pick?
Honestly, at this point, we have 11 draft picks now after these trades we've made. Wow. So, it's a good start to what a rebuild should be, right? You got 11 picks. You're going to be able to pick from the litter. You're going to be able to make a lot of picks. You could also make a move from 4 and trade down and get more. But, for me right now, I just want Dave Canales to have a backbone for once in his life as a head coach so far this season. And please pick a quarterback and just stick with it for the rest of the year because this flip-flopping back and forth is just getting ridiculous. And honestly, I can't even say how I feel about the draft because I don't think we really know what Carolina is going to do till probably there's like 2 games left in the season. And then we can say, all right, this is what we're going to do. Obviously, the plan is to build through the draft. obviously when you've got 11 draft picks, right? But at this point, I don't know what they're going to do.
Interesting. Well, guys, before we start breaking these games down, we got to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this video and this channel all football season long over at BetUS. Right now, when you guys sign up, super quick, I've done it myself. It takes less than 60 seconds. Use the mobile app, use their website, and you put in the promo code that you see on the screen, YouTube150. That is YouTube150. You'll be locked in to a limited time exclusive offer of a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits, all the way up to $2,000. That is a deal on your first 3 deposits when you guys sign up right now and use that promo code. BetUS has the fastest payouts in the industry. They can also give you a 200% crypto deposit bonus. They can even give you a 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year, which is absolutely insane and very generous of them. And they can give you your very own personalized account manager. They got the fastest and easiest deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, and they got the best betting variety in the entire business. Not only can you bet on NFL games, on NFL props, parlays, all of that, but you can also bet on NFL futures. You can bet on the NFL draft. Like I've always been saying, my favorite one right now is Travis Hunter, quarterback or wide receiver, who's going to have the first overall pick. They got specials when it comes to NFL games. But not only that, but you can bet on horse racing, fighting, college football, basketball, baseball, entertainment. You can even bet on politics right now, which now is probably the time. If you are someone who wants to bet on politics, this is probably the time to do it right now. So big shout out to BetUS. Remember that supporting the sponsors that support the channel, supports everybody here at Roundtable Sports, and we could not be here without them. But please play smart, please play responsible, and never bet more than you of course, can afford to lose. But fellas, let's just start getting into these games. Smitty, buddy, I want to start with you. The Atlanta Falcons, you guys are riding sky high right now. It feels like you guys are just picking up momentum each and every single week, and that's exactly what you want to see from your team. You guys have lost a couple of games, but you haven't let it get to you. You've kind of taken those losses, fixed your wrongs, and you continue to get right. And this is where hot football matters the most. You guys go into this game, beat the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe this isn't the Cowboys that we've seen in recent years, but still a team that can beat you any given week. Tell me what happened here.
I agree 100%. And it's all about making adjustments. And I feel like the Falcons have made adjustments the entire season, even after losses. This game was probably the most complete game I've seen them play defensively, getting after the quarterback with 3 sacks. I would still love to see Matthew Judon finally turn into Matthew Judon, but Arnold Ebiketie, he showed that he's going to fight to the end. Honestly, Dallas is not Dallas, but Atlanta took care of business, what they needed to do. Kirk Cousins had 3 touchdown passes, 222 yards. Bijan had another game with 145 yards from scrimmage. So they've been pretty balanced on offense. And as I keep telling y'all, Darnell Mooney is that guy, man. Darnell Mooney has been one of the best pickups, not only for the Falcons, but the entire NFL this offseason. Because we knew he had talent. He never had a quarterback in Chicago. Hell, he got 1,000 yards with a guy like Mitchell Trubisky. But you get him a competent quarterback like a Kirk Cousins, he showed you that he can be a legit number 2 receiver and a playmaker. So the Falcons are gaining steam, and 2 games left before the bye week. We play the Saints Sunday in New Orleans, then we go to Denver. 2 very tough games, even though, the teams are not, up to the level of competing for a playoff spot. But look, any game in the NFL, any given Sunday. And the Falcons have to keep building on this momentum, and that means the coaching staff has to keep this team focused every week going forward, because I think down the stretch is going to be key, knowing the type games we have against Washington and Minnesota.
Smitty, real quick, too, I'm kind of interested on your opinion on this, because I've kind of seen it be a controversial take between Patriots fans and Falcons fans is, how do you feel so far up to this point, heading into week 10, how do you feel about that Matthew Judon trade? Do you think that he was worth the 3rd round pick you gave up so far? Or would you say so far has not lived up to those expectations?
I would say I'm a little disappointed, because I thought he would be putting up better numbers, but at the same time, you got to think he's coming off injury. He's 32 years old. and maybe he just needs time to keep healing and keep getting back to himself. But the interior of the line played better this week, which is why the pass rush got to the quarterback. So maybe if the interior of the line, is consistent on a regular basis, I feel like Matthew Judon could take advantage of that. But right now he hasn't. So I think down the stretch, this depends on whether the Falcons bring him back or not. So even if we traded a 3rd round pick for him, but even if he leaves, we get a comp pick, so we really don't lose anything. So it's just a rental.
This is true. Like we always say, it doesn't matter how you start, it matters how you finish. And with Matthew Judon in contract here, definitely a guy that's going to need to start popping off a little bit more if he's going to get that last big payday. But James, let's go on over to you. What did you think about Falcons and Cowboys?
Yeah, I want to give a lot of credit to the Falcons here. They are rolling pretty well. I did have them losing this game, but I was wrong. And they looked like a very complete football team here. We've talked about it. They're winning on the ground with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Darnell Mooney, shout out to Smitty. Also, Darnell Mooney's on my fantasy team. So Smitty really helped me out this season for that one. Darnell Mooney's on pace to have the best season of his career. He has looked great this year. Honestly, there's been times, even in this game, where he looked like the number 1 passing option for the Falcons. Defensively, they definitely came alive a little bit. Caden Ellis had a good game. And a few of the other pass rushers that they have at their disposal really amped things up to get after Dak Prescott and then eventually Cooper Rush after Prescott went down. So this was a good win for the Falcons to continue to build momentum. They've been rolling. They've won 4 out of their last 5, or I guess I should say 5 out of their last 6 games. So yeah, they're rolling high right now. And they'll see if they can continue that against the Saints team that's going through a lot of change right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, congrats to the Falcons here for getting yet another win. They continue to build momentum. So yeah, it was a good win.
Oh, respect there. All right, Clay, let's go down to you, man. What did you think about the game?
Yeah, I've been telling Smitty and on this channel, I'm finally glad to see for the Falcons that they're getting some pressure on the quarterback. I've been kind of waiting to see if they're going to do that, right? The thing that sucks is, and I don't know if Smitty can allude to this, is Grady Jarrett out for the year? Smitty?
I don't know. He's day-to-day, actually.
Okay, because I know it's an Achilles injury, but
he had Achilles injury, but they didn't see no structure damage. Okay. So it's just like a mild strain, but he should be good to go. But honestly, I will be honest with you, Clay. I would keep Grady Jarrett and Drake London out until after the bye week to let them rest up a little bit, knowing the next 2 games that we have. I feel like they won't be easy games, not by far, but I feel like they're a game we can win without them.
Okay. Yeah, and I was glad. It's about time they finally got some sack numbers, though. Like, that's what you've been wanting to see as a Falcons fan, right? If I'm a Falcons fan, this is the game. This is the game that you finally wanted to see from the defensive standpoint of getting sacks, right? Getting the pressure quarterback. Cousins starting to look like the Cousins that we kind of saw last year before his Achilles injury. I'm thinking he's starting to come into that realm once again. A pass rating of 144.8. Which is crazy. 3 touchdowns, 222. This is what you wanted to see from Kirk Cousins since coming into the game. So as a Falcons fan, you got to be excited about that. Obviously, the Drake London, the Grady Jarrett injuries, not something you want to see. The Cowboys couldn't contain Bijan Robinson. They couldn't contain Darnell Mooney. So kudos to the Falcons getting a dub in this one. I think I had the Falcons winning this game. So.
All right. And TJ, let's go on over to you. What did you think about that Falcons dub?
I'm honestly shocked that the score was that close. The Cowboys are terrible. They can't stop the run. They don't want to play for their head coach. This guy's pretty much a dead man coaching right now. And, the Atlanta Falcons, they're riding a wave of momentum right now, so that's what you're supposed to do. Like, if you're a team that's trying to do something, make the playoffs, trying to get good seeding going into the playoffs, you knock off these teams that are struggling. And the Dallas Cowboys, they have no identity. Dak Prescott on the sidelines, you can read his lips saying we suck. That's what you're supposed to do. But Kirk Cousins, everybody knows Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's a high quality quarterback in the regular season. but I mean, he'll get you where you need to be in the regular season. My question is, what's going to happen when you're going up against top level competition, when you're going up against some of these main teams? Now, I said this before. That's my only question mark about the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah, you can beat these teams that are struggling and are considered low-hanging fruit, but can you beat those teams that they're not going to make mistakes? They're not going to fumble the football. They're not going to give you the football back more times than not. How are you going to be able to respond to that? That's my only question mark. But other than that, I think they're a good, solid football team. I think that Falcon fans should be proud of the product that they're putting on the field. And, it's been a long time since a Falcon fan have felt this way. So, I give them credit. That's what they're supposed to do. Good teams, they beat the teams that struggle, and they move on. So let's see what they're going to do down the stretch when the competition comes a little bit stiffer and, and playoff football starts.
And TJ, look, I was going to ask you about this a little bit later in the stream, but we got 154 people watching right now. So I feel like now is probably the time to do it before we go ahead and we get onto this Bucs game. You guys trade a star player today. You guys trade a star player, one of your top tier players, Marshon Lattimore. Want to get your thoughts on this. Want to get your thoughts on the compensation. And do you think this was a good move for your team, or is this a guy that maybe you wanted to keep to rebuild around? We know that the Saints heading into 2025, they are going to be yet again in negative cap space with the least projected cap space in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, but this is the reason why you trade a guy like Marshon Lattimore is the fact that you actually get some draft capital. Look, I mentioned this before. I said it on the podcast, State of the Saints. I said that in order for you to get out of this cap hell that you're in, you're going to have to be able to hit it out of the park. Now, the first, the first bowling pin has failed, and that was Dennis Allen. The second has got to be General Manager Mickey Loomis. You're doing the right things when it comes to building up the draft capital, but you got to be able to make sure that you have the best scouts that are evaluating this talent to get on this football team, and you got to be able to get this young talent to hit the ground running. Look, Marshon Lattimore is an incredible talent. He's always been that way. He was the Defensive Rookie of the Year back in 2017 when he first got into the league. He was supposed to be the number one cornerback taken off of the board. He had some question marks about his health, which made him fall to the New Orleans Saints in the first place. And, I think about the New Orleans Saints. They wanted Patrick Mahomes at that time, but the Kansas City Chiefs jumped in front of them, and they took Patrick Mahomes. And the next pick, the Saints took Marshon Lattimore. Nobody really talks about, man, we missed out on Patrick Mahomes. Now they do, now that, you're dealing with quarterback issues. But he never made you feel like that was a wasted pick. And that's exactly what you wanted. Marshon Lattimore is a cool, laid-back guy, but he's about his business. And the Washington Commanders, they got a dog out there, man. He's not going to, talk your head off. He's not going to be all chatty and stuff. I mean, he's going to handle his business. You put him on the best wide receiver on your team, and he's going to neutralize it. I mean, he's done this in the NFC South. I mean, there's so many different, wide receivers put him in their top 5 all the time. It's unfortunate that he plays in a smaller market in New Orleans where he didn't get the credit. But I think people are going to see now, he's going to the NFC East where it's very polarizing. I think he's going to start getting his flowers. I'm going to miss him, man, as a Saint, man. He's one of my favorite Saints. He's the greatest cornerback in the history of the franchise. And it's going to leave a huge void. I mean, you got some young, talented guys, but none of them are on the level of Marshon Lattimore. But it needed to be done. This is how you're going to be able to build it up. This is how you're going to be able to get yourself out of this cap hell that you're in. So you got to, make tough decisions. And unfortunately, Marshon Lattimore being traded with one of those decisions.
Damn, man. Just the state of the Saints currently right now. But you know what? I think my saddest thing, not even as a fan of football, or rather I should say as a fan of football, what I'm going to miss most is just seeing the Marshon Lattimore, Mike Evans matchup right here, man. I mean, that's one of the best in the NFL right there, man. I'm going to miss seeing that, but boy, oh boy, got to give the credit to the Commanders. That team has really hit the ground running this year, and they're just continuing to get better and better. And that's what happens when you hit on the quarterback position.
I thought it was a good trade for the Saints, honestly. I mean, you only lose really. You lost a player, and then you lost a draft pick, but you gained basically 2 draft picks out of it. So, you can find some talent, especially in this upcoming draft defensively. You can find another Marshon Lattimore in this draft. You can.
Yeah, so maybe a win-win situation for both teams. Supposed to be a very good edge class too, so maybe they look to kind of bolster the trenches there. But let's get into a couple of these super chats before we go on over to James to talk about that Bucks and Chiefs game. T. Riley comes in and says, Bryce Young, who dat? Man, y'all might be traded for him at this point. Y'all might trade for him.
Might as well just go ahead and put a Bryce Young statue in front of the dang stadium.
Hey, I might buy Young in Jersey. I ain't gonna lie. I might put it up in my office, man. That man is a legend in my book.
I'll just give you mine.
Legend.
He about to be the number one selling jersey in the
Legendary.
NFL, all coming from New Orleans.
Right.
Giovanni comes in with a $5 donation, says Bryce Young can walk down Bourbon Street with my company credit card right now, and I don't even care. Hashtag who dat. Man, Bryce Young got some fans around the league, and they're not Panthers fans. That's the wild part. They're in the division, but they're not Panthers fans. They're Saints fans. But appreciate you guys for donating here. T. Riley and Giovanni really help support us here at the NFC South Roundtable. But James, I want to go up to you. Like we alluded to earlier, you guys had a really, really close game. Really, really close game against the Chiefs. Maybe it's alluding to a bigger problem in the NFL. And James, I don't know how you feel about this, but that's one of the biggest things that I was seeing online after this was the overtime rules are terrible. The overtime rules need to change because the only reason, and it's what I was hearing on Twitter, the only reason that the Chiefs won that game, and the only reason they're still undefeated, is because they were able to win the coin toss. And you saw it on Baker's face. As soon as the Chiefs won that coin toss, he knew that game was all but over. But James, talk to me about this.
My heart hurts. Listen, this is the second time the Bucks have lost in overtime this year in the same exact fashion. Man, I understand the criticisms of the overtime rules, and I get that. Right. I would also say too, like it's a two-edged sword. Like defensively, you also got to try and get a stop. You didn't really hear Todd Bowles complain about the overtime rules after the game. He just said, hey, we had our chances and we lost in the end. And it's interesting because there's two mindsets here, right? There's the mindset that we talked about at the beginning of the show, which is like, well, hey man, they competed with one of the best teams in the league. That's good, right? But also the other side of that mindset is, but they aren't finishing games, right? They've lost 4 out of their last 5 now, or maybe 5 out of their last 6, something along those lines. This is a team that is competing, sure, but they aren't finishing games. They aren't closing out games with wins. And that's what matters at the end of the day. So you can say week after week after week, well, gosh, golly, they were competitive. That's great, but it's not resulting in a lot of wins right now. So that has got to change. Right now, this is a team that still looks like they are playing hard. They are competing hard. And again, that is still a positive thing, but you got to find some wins at the end of the day. And the Bucks have been not finding a lot of those recently. There were some positive things in this game. Baker Mayfield didn't turn the ball over. I thought that was great. Honestly, I thought both sides of the ball played fine, all things considered. But the biggest thing that has been concerning, and we've been saying this week after week here on the NFC South Roundtable for the past month and a half now, is just this has been a team that is competing, but not closing out games. And that's not going to amount to a lot of wins at the end of the day. So it's the two mindset thing there. So I'd be curious to hear what everybody else has to say. Because on one hand, there were some positive things here, but it is frustrating that yet again, this team can't find a way to close out and win a football game.
I feel your frustration, man. My team is the exact same way. So trust me, I'm feeling your pain right now. But Clay, let's go down to you. What did you think about this game?
Yeah, I blame this game on Todd Bowles. I'm gonna be honest with you. You have the chance to close this team out and you kick a field goal. I don't understand why you don't go to take Baker Mayfield was looking just fine, taking you down drive after drive. Like he was a warrior out there last night. I've got to give Baker the credit where credit's due. I watched this whole game. And to me, Baker Mayfield could have won that game for them the way he was playing. But Todd Bowles took the field goal instead to finally close it out against the Kansas City Chiefs to finally give them their final loss, and they didn't do it. And he didn't do it. He folded like a cheap tent. And Tampa Bay's defense was started showing up, I felt like. It fizzled out at the end. Baker Mayfield was doing his thing, like I said. But the biggest thing on the defensive side was DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce was Tampa Bay's kryptonite. That's what it was. And Mahomes did his thing, and the Bucs got burned for it. But I put this on Todd Bowles cold-heartedly. I still think that they're good enough to put up. I think Tampa Bay's still a good enough team to put up a fight. Nowhere good enough to win consistently right now. They've got some injuries that I think is hurting them big time, and we're seeing it. This game was. I was hoping that this was going to be the game of the year for them, and they had a lot of flashy moments. They had times to put this game away, and they didn't. And ultimately, the better team won. But I blame Todd Bowles for kicking that field goal.
All right, TJ, let's go on over to you. What'd you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about these defensive coaches, man. I mean, they're way too conservative. You know, like when you're going up against the greatest quarterback of this generation and Patrick Mahomes, like you got to make sure that you just leave it all out there on the field. You got to be aggressive. You got to do things that you normally wouldn't do in game time situations. You got to do everything that you can to win this football game. But I look at, Baker Mayfield. I mean, the guy's a warrior, man. I mean, you think about just where he came from, and a lot of people just wrote him off, and he's in games going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty incredible in his own right. And if you look at the wide receivers that he went out there with, I mean, outside of Cade Iden, I mean, you really don't have that much. But this shows you how talented he is. This shows you how determined he is to try to put this team on his back. But when you're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, like they say, if you go after the king, you better not miss. And as far as these, overtime rules, I definitely feel like they need to change the overtime rule. Fun fact, I mean, the overtime rule actually got changed where another team can actually possess is because of the New Orleans Saints NFC Championship game versus the Minnesota Vikings. The Saints drove down the field, kicked a 40-yard field goal, went to the Super Bowl. After that year, they changed around the overtime rule. I think that they kind of got it right, but I feel like it shouldn't come down to a coin toss. I think that even if a team scores a touchdown, the other team should be able to possess to try to score. I don't know if they maybe need to change it around, maybe like the college football rule, but they need to do something because that's totally unfair in my book. Teams scratch and bite and claw, and you get to that point because the NFL is competitive, and it comes down to a coin toss. I mean, it's something I feel like the NFL needs to look at. That's one thing that I think they need to look at. Another thing is if a team goes for a 2-point conversion, I feel like a stat line needs to have you need to add to a stat line. I just learned that if you sack a quarterback on a 2-point conversion or a pass deflection, it doesn't go against your statistics. So I feel like that needs to change too, but they definitely need to change the overtime rule as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. And I was thinking kind of my initial thoughts about maybe what they should do with the overtime rule is kind of like what they did when they switched the whole field goal thing, right? So if you kick a field goal, there's still time on the clock. The other team's going to have the opportunity to go down the field and at least tie the game, get into the end zone to win it. They should do the same thing with the touchdown, right? So if you get a touchdown, it doesn't win you the game. The other team can have the opportunity to possess the ball. If they kick a field goal, they lose. They have to get a touchdown in order for the game to keep going, but give them an opportunity to drive down the field and put up the same points. Give them the same opportunity, not, hey, if you score the touchdown, the game's immediately over. That's what I would do. But it is a real conversation in these moments too on, hey, you tie the game, Patrick Mahomes is on the other side of the field. Do you go for 2, get aggressive, and try to win the game right there, or do you go for the extra point? And ironically, this is something that in week 9, the New England Patriots actually faced too, because time expiring, Drake May finds Ramondre Stevenson in the end zone, and they tie the game. And everybody was saying, go for 2, go for 2. They end up going for the field goal. Now, say what you want about the math, but the math actually says you have about a 48% chance of winning if you go for the extra point. It's about a 43% chance if you go for 2. I think it depends on team to team, circumstance to circumstance. I think in the Bucs situation, yes, you're missing out on a couple of wide receivers, but you don't want Patrick Mahomes to get the ball back because you know if they get it in overtime, you know that they're going to drive down the field, especially with how they were cooking, and they were going to win that game. Again, you might be out Mike Evans, you might be out Chris Godwin, but you have enough firepower to still find a way to get a 2-point conversion. Where in the Patriots standpoint, That final play ran up about 10, 15 seconds alone. Offense was gashed. Patriots have one of the worst offenses in the league. They are a team that in this circumstance probably should have went for the extra point. So it's a real discussion.
But I want to say this. Oh, I'm sorry, Clay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I understand that, you know, a coach will go to the podium after a game and they'll say something like, oh, we didn't make the plays. But it's so hard to win in the National Football League, man. And I just feel like if two teams are tied, like even if a team comes back and they tie the game, or if it's just been nip and tuck the entire time, it should not come down to a coin toss to determine a winner of a game. And I get it. You have to drive down the field and score a touchdown. But how fair is it that one team wins a coin toss and they just drive down the field and the other team doesn't possess? I just feel like that's something that they need to take a look at. I mean, I understand it's probably going to, you know, make the games a little bit longer, and that's what the NFL doesn't want. But I just feel like it kind of cheapens the game a little bit, because you don't want to leave that uncertain. You don't want to leave that uncertainty out there.
And I've been saying for years, man, I feel like overtime should just be a whole quarter, a whole 10-minute quarter. Whoever wins out that quarter, they win. If it's a tie, it's a tie. So that's the only way you're going to fix that. But to go back to the game, Baker Mayfield only threw for 200 yards, but he was making key throw after key throw. So you got to pick up on that. And when you have a running back like Bucky Irvin, who I call a baby Bijan Robinson, an athletic guy like that, who's a two-headed monster dual threat type guy, you got to go for 2 points at that. The Falcons made that mistake in Atlanta, man. When you have Patrick Mahomes on the ropes going for that knockout punch, go for 2. At least we know you tried. You're not going to beat Kansas City, in overtime, and we see that. We talk about the refs, but at the end of the day, it's Patrick Mahomes, a guy who threw for nearly 300 yards, and you had a running back run for 100 yards at Kareem Hunt. So, I mean, when you got him on the ropes, man, you just got to go for that haymaker. I'm sorry, it's just that simple.
And that's what I was alluded to when I said I blame Todd Bowles. Like, you don't kick that field goal. You go for it. Like, you have them. You have your foot on the gas and you step on their throat, because that's what you have to do with the Kansas City Chiefs, or Mahomes is going to make you pay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into this final game here, guys. But of course, you let us know in the live chat. And if you're rewatching the replay, let us know in the comment section below. What do you think about this game? And what would you have done if you were in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers shoes? Would you have just went for the field goal, or would you have tried to be aggressive and go for 2? We want to hear from you guys, but want to get into this last game, this big in-division game between the Saints and the Panthers. Clay, let's start with you. Then TJ, when he's done, we'll go on over to you, and we'll give you guys the floor.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina, this game for me, I felt like I got to see the rookies bring some heat finally. I got to see Jadavion Sanders. I feel like he's starting to come into his own, like as a blocking, pass catching tight end that we drafted him to be. He was a steal out of the 4th round. It's starting to look like at this point he leads this team in receiving yards now. Xavier Legette continues to find the end zone time and time again. Made a clutch 26-yard grab on that game-winning drive. Jalen Coker, Damani Richardson, both are starting to impress me. I'm really starting to like Damani Richardson. He's led this team the past 2 games in tackles. So far the 2024 draft is looking for Carolina. Bryce Young, I'm just giving Bryce Young his flowers, ladies and gentlemen. So please don't bash me in the comments thinking I think this guy is the savior of the franchise. I still don't believe that. But Bryce Young is finally starting to set in. He had a rough start, of course, of the season. There's no question about that. But this game was his second week of looking actually solid. He completed 16 of his 26 passes, 171 yards, notched 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That 1 interception was not his fault. Xavier Legette should have gotten more physical, and the corner ripped it out of his hands. But he threw it deep. He took some risk. He didn't look like he was panicking in the pocket, which I've been finally waiting for him to do. And we've started to see that more often in these past 2 weeks. He showed some kind of poise, the grip that we've been looking for. I'm proud to say that. Bad news for me is I just feel like Dave Canales' play calling starting to get predictable and painful. The Panthers won despite his play calling, and it wasn't because of it. Like, the offensive strategy has been questionable all season. And I felt like for me, Sunday was the last straw that I saw. He's starting to look like he's trying to outsmart himself, and it's not working, right? Canales calls were often ill-timed, painfully predictable, or just downright bizarre. And there's just screenplays after screenplays, and I just don't get it. You're losing yards on these screenplays, and they still kept going back at it. But again, the creativity is just getting cringeworthy as well. But another thing is about the Saints. Like, the Saints were their own enemy in this game. That's why I say that Carolina didn't really win this game. The Saints lost it themselves. Like, I know this win was probably at least half of it was luck for us. I think the Saints practically gave Carolina every opportunity to take the game. I mean, they committed 10 penalties, for God's sakes, that set them back like 110 yards, something like crazy like that. Each time New Orleans gained momentum, they imploded with a holding call, a pass interference, or some other boneheaded mistake. And we got gifted, no doubt about it. And we capitalized on it. And if they're hoping to make these 1-point wins a trend here in Carolina, they need to look at a lot sharper than they did against the Saints. But overall, I'm happy for the win, but at the same time, not really. It's like, I don't know how I feel.
Hey, I'm happy y'all won. I am. Like, I'm not going to even much lie to you, Clay. Look, this, once again, like we said at the beginning of the show, this needed to happen. I was actually at the game, and I want to say this. I got to give credit to the Carolina Panthers fans, because I did not expect those many fans to be in the stands when a team is 1-7. Like, I didn't. Like, I was looking around. I mean, they were engaged. They were fired up. They were into the game. They really wanted this team to be successful. And this is what I said last week. You have one team that doesn't have a winning record, but is trying to win. Then you have another team who basically just fumbles all over themselves and snatches defeat from the jaws of victory every single week. I mean, that's just the way that it goes. Clay alluded to it. I mean, the Saints outgained the Carolina Panthers 150 yards. Alvin Kamara had over 200 yards of total offense. I mean, everything about this game, like, if you just didn't watch the game and you were just looking at the box score, you'd be like, man, the Saints won this football game. Nope. I mean, 257 times this scenario has taken place. And the only time this has ever happened where a team outgains another over 150 yards and lose was against this game that happened on Sunday. Dennis Allen is a loser. Everybody knows that. This guy has lost every way imaginable. I mean, any way you can think about it. You think about the Atlanta Falcons game. They didn't score offensive touchdown in that game, and they lost. The Saints, I think, had a block punt against the Philadelphia Eagles. Right, they had like 3 turnovers, and they lost. Losing culture is in New Orleans. And if it wasn't for this game, then I feel like they would have kept on keeping this thing rolling, because Mickey Loomis, the general manager of the New Orleans Saints, I don't know what the heck going on, man. I don't know what type of relationship these boys got, but I'm telling you, man, it something ain't right here. That you watch this team fumble all over itself. And I'm serious. Week after week like this, and you just chunk it up to injuries. Like, I've watched teams have injuries. I've watched teams lose their quarterback, and they still find ways to win. Malik Willis, who got traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Green Bay Packers, came in and won football games for the Green Bay Packers when Jordan Love went down. That's what good coaching does for you. Everywhere this guy has went, they talk about how he doesn't stand up for his players. He throws his players under the bus. There was a former president, her name is Amy Trask of the Raiders. She talked about this. She talked about how much of a failure this guy was, how this guy can't motivate anybody. And these players did not want to play for this guy. And they may not say it because, of course, you got to think about the future. You got to think about maybe you're auditioning for other teams. They can't come out here and say it. But the body language and the energy just tells me they did not want to play for that guy. A part of me feels like that final drive, Clay, they let Chuba Hubbard score. Like, if you look at it, like, I'm serious. Go back and take a look at it. I mean, man, they did not want to tackle this guy. No energy at all. But it needed to be done. I mean, you had no more excuses. So they had to fire this guy. I look at this offense. I mean, Derek Carr is terrible. Worst free agent acquisition I didn't seen in my entire life. Like, you could have had Andy Dalton for less money and he would have gave you the same level of production as Derek Carr. I mean, it's just an absolute failure, man. This is a team that felt as if they were holier than thou because they had Sean Payton and Drew Brees all those years. And for some apparent reason, they feel like they're still that team. Like, it's like that movie Shallow Hal, if you ever seen that with Jack Black, right?
Oh, yeah.
He sees the world a completely different way, right? He's looking at these women and they look a certain way to him, but everybody else like, man, what are you doing? That's what the Saints are. The Saints are Shallow Hal. Everybody else can see that this team needs to rebuild. Everybody sees that Dennis Allen is not the part. But Mickey Loomis, for some apparent reason, just looks at this guy like he's Chuck Noll, the second coming of Don Shula. But now I feel like the Saints can move on. Yeah, we'll probably have some down years because of the cap issue, but you get some guys in here that love football. You get somebody in here that's a leader of men. You bring somebody in here that can give you the energy that you need so the Saints can be competitive in the NFC South. Nobody wants to see their team looking like slaw every single week. Like, regardless to if your team is rebuilding, you can kind of understand that, right? Man, we having some down years. But the fact that the New Orleans Saints looked at themselves like they were going to be this dominant team for years to come under Dennis Allen, even a part of me, like, feel like, man, I was duped. And I would take responsibility for that. I thought they were going to be a little bit different because of the offensive staff changing over, some of the things that they did in the offseason. But when I take a look at it and I realize it, like, I just now know, regardless of what you put in front of Dennis Allen, he's going to find a way to fumble it. And thank goodness for the Carolina Panthers. Thank goodness for Bryce Young for exposing the loser that Dennis Allen is. They had no more legs. They had no more excuses, not a leg to stand on. And now the Saints can move on and be a competitor for years to come.
Woo! Go off, TJ. Okay, man. Look, you needed some therapy. You got it out, and I'm happy for you, man, because this clearly was a lot building up in you, not even for the last few weeks, but maybe even the last couple of years. So big round of applause for TJ, man. You deserve this, which is kind of a crazy thing for me to say. Like, you just fired your head coach, and that's a good thing. But
go off,
man,
King.
You. Yeah,
you deserve it.
Go on, buddy. Let's go on up over to Smitty. Smitty, what do you think about the game?
Say it with your chest. But man, he absolutely right, man. And I said it at the beginning of the year. Dennis Allen wasn't that guy. I remember him back in Oakland, man. This dude couldn't even start a fire on the barbecue grill. And as I look at what they're doing in New Orleans, and now that I look back at it, I'm thinking this is the reason Sean Payton left. He probably couldn't deal with Mickey Loomis either. And now I'm wondering, TJ, am I right or wrong? Will they have to buy his stock in the team because that was left in the will? If I'm Gail Benson, that's what I'm doing. I'm finding a way to get Mickey Loomis out of there. You need somebody in there that's going to be competent, that wants to win. And this salary cap is not going to go away, just like you said. And I know how that feels because we just got out of it. So it's going to be a long climb. And with an incompetent GM, it's going to make it much harder. But this game right here, 200 and some yards by Alvin Kamara should have been enough against a Carolina's Panther team. And that lets you know right there that the players say, hey, we give up. We throwing up our hands. Let him score so we can get Dennis Allen out of here. They talked about that before the game, I'm telling you. But again, shout out to the Carolina Panthers, man, because something had to happen. Because I'm a Falcon fan, but no team deserves that kind of coach. And you saw his facial expression on the sideline, like he just didn't give a damn. So it's just time.
Hey, man, look, shout out to A1 Forever, too, by the way. Says, Colby, man, get some coffee. Man, I'm telling you, like, I can't be the only one. The weather changing, the time changing, trying to readjust. Like, they say this is the most wonderful time of the year. This is the hardest time of the year. I don't know what everybody's talking about. Are you kidding me? The holidays, the weather changing, the sun never being out. What are we talking about? The most wonderful time of the year. All right, look, James, let's go on over to you, man. What do you think about this game?
Well, a few things. One, TJ for head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Let's go. Get him out there. I'm ready to run through a brick wall for this guy. TJ said he was at the game. I think I saw him out there on the TV. He was packing some bags for they had DA on the bags. I don't really know what that was about. But, listen, I'm sorry that you two had to watch this game. It was golly. I'm happy to hear that Clay's back on the Bryce Young train, and Bryce Young for franchise quarterback for the Carolina Panthers now. I'm happy to hear that. It seems like you both are in a really good place. Look, man, yeah, this wasn't a great game. I will say there were some positives. Alvin Kamara is still single-handedly carrying the Saints. We didn't even talk about big time trade for the Panthers. Jonathan Mingo getting moved.
Oh yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Shout out to the Panthers. Dude, I can't believe they got a 4th round pick out of
that. Was wild. Y'all cooked there. The fact that D-Hop went for a 5th. You guys got a 4th for a dude whose best season was like 400 yards.
We got a 4th round pick for a guy this season that's had 12 catches for 120 yards. That's it. Who's average, and also, by the way, in the last 4 weeks, he's caught 1 catch for 1 yard.
All about potential, I guess.
That's worth a 4th rounder to the Cowboys, darn it. I mean, golly. But no, look, man, this game was, I just watched the last play, by the way, per TJ's recommendation. And it totally looks like they let Chuba Hubbard into the end zone. It's funny too. Clay talking about the Dave Canales' offensive play calling. Well, welcome to hell, Clay. It's a little bit warm. You took the Bucs spot. I will say this. I think that Dave Canales is a decent offensive coordinator, but there were times last year, to Clay's point, where it's like, yeah, Dave Canales' creativity wasn't the most creative thing in the world. There were some predictable moments in there, and I think as the season progressed, Dave Canales' shine was wearing a little bit thin on the Bucs last year, and now we're seeing a similar thing with the Carolina Panthers. So it'll be interesting to see what changes are made there in terms of play calling and whatnot going forward. But look, both of these teams are still trying to figure out who they are. Obviously this year, but also going forward as well, right? I'm going to be curious to see who the Saints bring in as their next head coach. It's obviously not great for the remainder of the season whenever your organization fires the head coach. But I was happy that we got to talk about this today because, dude, I'd love to get TJ's thoughts on it. I'm done with Mickey Loomis, man. I don't like that guy. He just seems so out of touch with where his organization is. And I don't think he's the right guy to help rebuild this roster for New Orleans. So I'd love to get TJ's thoughts on that before we sign off here. But shout out to the Panthers, man. Yeah. Bryce Young, franchise quarterback, baby. Right, Clay?
Right.
Hey, you better stop that bullshit. Stop it now.
Listen, shout out to the I do agree with Clay though that they should pick a quarterback and stay with him. Honestly, it probably should be Andy Dalton if they want to win football games. I'm saying, but shout out to the Panthers for winning, and the Saints made some moves that they had to make. Moving on from some of their higher priced guys, getting rid of Dennis Allen, and we'll see if that continues going forward with hopefully getting rid of Mickey Loomis.
Yeah, homie got to go. It's just that simple. I'm not going to even prolong the time. He has got to go. If you keep him around, you're basically just okay with the status quo. Change has got to take place in New Orleans. Like, it was a great moment in time when Drew Brees and Sean Payton were on the sidelines. It was a great moment, but you can't replicate that. This organization is afraid to embark on anything fresh and brand new. I just don't get it. Like, all these old customs all these traditions, man, for like maybe 20 years, you've had credibility when it comes to Saints football. I get it. You don't want to turn a page, but reality is going to slap you in the face, rather you want to acknowledge it or not. And reality pimp slap the New Orleans Saints in the face. And you got to be able to, you got to get him up out of there, man. You got to. That's the only way the New Orleans Saints are going to be successful going forward. This guy has, he's been exposed. It was Sean Payton and Drew Brees.
You think Gail Benson got the kahunas to pull that off?
Yeah, I think she does, because here's another crazy little story for y'all. Do y'all know that he was the general manager of the New Orleans Pelicans at one time?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one, like, yeah. Yep. So when he was making bad decisions, got Stan Van Gundy as the head coach, like he was messing up there. And she jumped in and said, "No, man, come on back to football. Come on back." So now you got to have that conversation with him again. And he was not happy. I encourage you all to look at the statement after they fired Dennis Allen. There was Dennis Allen's statement, there was Gail Benson's statement, and then there was Mickey Loomis. You can, like, I made the joke. You can taste the salt of that statement. He was salty. He didn't even speak to the media because he did not want Dennis Allen to go. When you are that emotional about a situation, you don't need to be in an executive role. You don't need to be over football operations. Football cannot be about family. Oh man, that's my family. I look at him like my brother. I look at him like my son. Man, you cannot sing kumbaya. That's why people don't go into business with family members. That's the reason why, because eventually you're going to have a tough conversation with that person. And I think, and if you're running a business, I'm just telling you this. If you have to second guess the conversation that you're about to have with somebody, you probably shouldn't be in business with them in the first place.
Right.
This guy needs to go, man.
Real talk. Well, hey guys, look, that is going to end it for our week 9 recap. As always, we have to head on over to do our pre-recorded video that'll drop for you guys in a few days, breaking down their thoughts and their predictions for week 10. So make sure you guys do subscribe here to the NFC South Roundtable. Hit that bell notification so that you get notified every single time we post, every single time we go live. But before we log off, want to also let you guys know that, again, we are on Spotify. So if you guys go to Spotify, you look up NFC South Roundtable, all of our videos will be on audio format if that's what you prefer to do. If you're on a flight and you want to listen to the NFC South Roundtable, if you're driving and you want to listen to the NFC South Roundtable, if you just cooking up the dishes with some AirPods in or whatever, you want to listen to the NFC South Roundtable, make sure you guys go ahead and check us out on Spotify. Follow us, rate us, do all of that good stuff. This week 9 recap will probably be up about tomorrow or the day after. They're uploaded pretty quickly. So would really appreciate it if you guys went ahead and supported us over there. Another, of course, massive shout out to BetUS. Make sure you guys use that promo code YouTube150 to get a 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125 on your next 2, all the way up to $2,000. Please make sure you guys leave a big like on this video on your way out. It helps support us massively. Make sure you follow each of these creators' individual channels, links in the description box below. As I always say, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. Until next time, though, we will see you guys next week.